Okay, interesting. Got some coins energy. We've got some cups energy and a couple swords. So the main thing that I'm getting here, Sag, for you is to be flexible and to adapt to changing circumstances as they arrive. The reason I'm saying that is that Two of Coins is a card about flexibility. This is a card that has to do with, juggling things. It can sometimes mean juggling money, like feeling like, yeah, I have to take money from Peter to pay Paul, feeling stretched thin as far as your budget. In the Rider-Waite, he's standing on one foot, so sometimes it can be a card of imbalance, feeling like unstable. And in the reverse position, especially, it can have that feeling like you're feeling wobbly. You're feeling like you're kind of balancing on one foot and you can't get your footing. You can't get your balance. But the high side of this card is being able to adapt to changing circumstances as they come. I also noticed the ship on this card, and it's rising and lowering according to the tides. So that's kind of the low side of this card can be feeling like off balance, feeling like you've got too many balls in the air, feeling like you're juggling things and it's kind of stressing you out. But the high side of this card is adopting a sense of fun and flexibility and sort of like taking all those balls in the air that you have that you're juggling and say, look at me, look at what I'm capable of. Not only that, I can do it on one foot. Isn't this fun? So with it in the reverse position, it says that you may have more of a tendency to be leaning towards feeling off balance, feeling like stretched thin, feeling like you don't know how to give the proper amount of attention in all the different directions you're being pulled in. But I'm going to invite you, Sag, to adopt a feeling of fun and playfulness. You Sages are pretty good at that anyway. A feeling of like just letting things roll off your back and like, allowing the changing circumstances to come in and rolling with it and having that sense of fun and playfulness and flexibility to do that. So that's your main message for July, is just keeping that sense of fun, keeping it like juggling, here's another ball that's being thrown into the mix and I'm just gonna play. Instead of getting stressed out with feeling like, oh, I'm off balance, I don't know how to do all this at once. So let's see what's going on in your shadow position. There's themes of work, creativity, making money that are maybe not in your conscious mind, your everyday, what's going on the surface, but it's kind of like hanging out below the surface in your unconscious. So some of you may need to address thoughts about work. Some of you, it's going to be like, oh yeah, there's that stack of work that I need to get to. Because this is in the shadow position, it's usually what's in our unconscious. So some of you are thinking about work. Even though there's a theme of like play and juggling things, changing circumstances, some of you may be thinking, oh, how am I going to be making money? Or I really need to get to that workbench and grind it out. So work is on your mind. Being productive, making money, but it's not at the forefront of your mind. It's kind of like the undercurrent of what's there. You may have more of like a frivolous, carefree, or conversely stressed out demeanor for July, depending upon how you integrate this card, the feeling of this card. But underlying that is thoughts about making money, work, setting foundation, being productive, all of that. What's passing away, Sag, is Six of Swords. So this is a time of healing and of recovery. It's a time of going from, charged, uproaring, charging waters to smoother seas, smoother horizons. Some of you may have just been traveling. That can be the literal meaning of this card. And really, I'm just getting that it's a period of recovery and healing that is passing away. And as you recover and heal, you become more aware of what's entering in, which is new options. This is Seven of Cups, which has to do with, I sometimes call this the Las Vegas card, because it's like when all these things are flashing at you, it can be infatuation. It's a lot of choices. And it's sort of a card of, where do my passions lie? Cups are heart energy. It's emotional energy. So it's saying, do I want to pursue the victory? Do I want to pursue this persona of who I want to be? Riches and jewels, castles in the sky, power, or relationship, all these different options that are coming at you. But this is a card of real fantasy, by the way. See all the clouds here? It's very Neptune dominated. So when you see this card come up, it's worth taking a hard look at, is what you see what you get? Do your research. It's a card of fantasy and infatuation, but sometimes this card says everything that glitters isn't gold. So when this comes up, participate in what your feelings are saying that you want, but be careful that you're not swept away by something that's seductive rather than true. Take some time to evaluate what this shiny thing is in front of you that you're fantasizing about or infatuated with. And then Emperor is highlighted. This means Sag, setting firm boundaries, establishing some sort of foundation, being at the head of your game, being at the top of your game, making decisions that establish order. So highlighted for you in July is establishing some kind of order out of maybe this chaos, this imbalance, a lack of order, for what I'll say, changing circumstances. You're trying to establish some sort of foundation in July, making decisions that create order and foundation. So that's the general reading for July for you, Sag. Stay flexible, have fun, adopt an attitude, but you're kind of got more serious things going on in your shadow and your highlight, but you may need to just keep some flexibility there until those things come to the surface. For the first week of July, you may have to adopt an attitude of patience. This is a card, Seven of Coins, of consideration, thinking things over, reflecting on things, kind of asking the question, are my efforts being put towards the rewards that I want to reap? Like, do I want to continue planting the same seeds and yielding the same harvest? It's a time of considering, well, maybe do I want to plant a different harvest so that I get different rewards? It may be a time of patience with money too, because Seven of Coins says the coins are there on the vine, but they're not ready to harvest. So it's the farmer card. So it's about putting forth effort, consistent effort, and then yielding results when the time is right. So have some patience in the first week, Sag. Your money is, even though you may be generating it, it's not showing up yet. You're going to have to plant some seeds to harvest later. Or they may be ready to harvest soon. It's just a time of reflection, consideration, time to you're kind of being at the crossroads with something. Second week of July, there's something where you're feeling like you're exhausted, you want to collapse, your life force is draining out of you. And swords represent thought, Sag. So I'm going to ask you, what thoughts are draining the life out of you? What ways of thinking do you need to let go of? What thoughts do you need to pull out of yourself to regain your life force? You Sagittarius are a fire sign, so you're usually full of life, kicking up your heels, optimistic, enthusiastic, going from one place to the next, traveling, exploring. But be careful that you don't overdo it in week 2 of July. And especially regarding your thinking. This card can sometimes reflect negative thinking or negative thoughts. You see that the thoughts here, which are the swords, literally drain the life out of a person. So I'm going to encourage you to give up that old way of thinking that is draining the life out of you. And this is the end of a cycle. So, acknowledge that you've kind of hit bottom with that. And then it's time to let go of that cycle, that way of thinking, Sag. If it's draining you. In week 3, there's love being offered to you, but you may not see it. 4 of Cups. This is a card, I call this the Rip Van Winkle card. And in it, there's a figure that is just preoccupied with themselves. so that they're missing out on what's being handed to them. Cups are love cards, they're emotional energy, and it's sort of like the divine is trying to hand you new life, new love, new passion, new joy. But if you don't look up and out of yourself, you might miss it. This is a preoccupation on what was, what is, and what you believe will always be. It's sort of like being on a hamster wheel, so you check out, and you need to dust off these weeds that are growing around you and look up, look out, look at a different experience. With this in the reverse position, there's some sort of fear, doubt, resistance. It may be related to this healing that you're letting go of, but I encourage you to break out of it. This can be a card of being aloof, being like bored with everything, not seeing that there's new love available. But this is Ace of Cups, which is new love, new passion, new joy. You just have to break out of this, Sag, to see that. And I kind of feel like in the week 4, you might be ready to break out of whatever funk that is, or whatever, if you're checked out or bored or aloof or anything like that. Week 4 will open you up. You're going to be ready to move on from that. So this is 8 of Cups. And as you can see, this person is taking a journey. They're wrapping up the old cycle. This is something they put a lot of their heart into, a lot of TLC. And I'm kind of getting that you're ready to move on from it during the new moon. I believe we're getting a new moon towards the end of the month. So in week 4, you're going to be ready to move on from that old cycle. You've done a lot of healing. That's passing away. There's a lot of completion here in July for you, Sag, with the 10 of Swords, the old way of thinking, 8 of Cups, moving on from what you put a lot of your heart into. And there's some new options coming in with the 7 of Cups and with the 4 of Cups. You're going to have to open up your eyes, though, to see what's real, because both of these really have to do with clearing away the fog that is clouding your vision about what your choices are. This card says, oh, it's always going to be the same. I'm just going to give up and stay internal because I don't see anything new. Whereas the new thing is right in front of you. You just can't see it. And this card is really about evaluating your choices, what looks sparkling and attractive and seductive on the superficial level versus when you clear the clouds away, what stays, what's permanent, what's actually like a solid choice. So do your research. Look things squarely in the eye when this comes up. You've got some nice heart options coming at you, but you may have to just do some real clarification, some evaluations, some thinking things over. What's going to sustain me long term? What is sort of of nutritious value? The Farmer card really is practical in terms of long-term success. He's not just going to be planting, candy in his garden. He knows that won't grow. He's planting things that he can sustain himself on long term. So that's worth thinking about, Sag. Just be flexible. Have a sense of humor. You guys are good at that anyway. Adapt to changing circumstances right now. Give yourself a sense of humor, a sense of playfulness, a sense of, I'm just going to roll with it for right now, and acknowledge that there's a healing and an ending happening for you in July.